A e e a e e a e e a e e a e e a e e a e e a e e a e e a e
I don't consider myself having any talent.
Baluba, 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 baluba.
No skills or abilities, but I can perform.
I'm singing along today. I'm singing along.
I think one of the reasons I enjoy performance is that it forces or enables me to be concentrated and aware. A facilitator, stroke performance situation. I need to be there. I need to be aware. I'm there. With Eamonn on the street when we're singing, we sing about whatever is happening in that moment. If it's raining, we'll respond to that.
Enjoy the rain, 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 enjoy the rain.
We're doing it to the audience. We're not doing it for them. They're our witness.
I'm fucking fudge off his head. Hey, can I have a wee bit too?
What?
Empty chalk pot for the sea. And I'll sign it here. This is the Mayor of Derry, Mr. Ward.
So that people have to ask, why are you doing this? You know, if it's for charity, that would be okay. If it was for a cause, that's okay. But simply to perform and express yourself out of a sense of freedom, I find it hard to take. Well, there's some in here mixed up with family photographs as well. So, no to detention. That was a request for students, school pupils up in Scale who had a problem about being kept in detention. This was just a spontaneous one. I was standing on top of a bollard and very, very, very slowly turning around.
He's singing along today as I'm not joining in.
It was 1988. I had met Eamonn before, but I advertised a street theatre class.
We were born to sing.
And he was the only one who turned up.
We were born to sing.
And we took us a chair around the town. We did all sorts of things with this chair, and this started us off. And there was a creative process. You would go out together and you would have a vague idea of what you're going to do. or no idea until you start it. And as you work and as you progress, things change, things happen, and you are part of a creative process. And every time we went out, there was something interesting happened.
Once we came to pay, we're standing for a while and the guys give me a note. I want milk and sugar, even though I was talking to him.
And going into shopping centres, we've sometimes run against problems with the management and security staff. And sometimes on the streets we've had to negotiate with the police. This was an anti-war one, where we talked about blocking the pavement. We were talking on the ground about the recent Iraq war, and the police intervened at one point because they can say that writing on the ground is criminal damage. So for a strong issue like that there, I'm prepared to take it the whole way.
Why not? Why not? Why not? Why not? Why not enjoy the rain? Why not enjoy the rain? Why not enjoy the rain? Why not enjoy? Why not? Why not? Why not enjoy the rain? Why not enjoy the rain? Why not enjoy the rain?
There's Alistair McClellan with another performance artist on the street. There are various individuals over the years who have joined us for periods of time, and most of them have said how freeing they found the experience. But I suppose if somebody wants to express themselves in public, we're demonstrating how easy it can be. I would encourage people not to worry where is it going to, but to stay with wherever they're at, and it'll lead somewhere. But what is it to journey is better than to arrive. It's in the process which is important.
Boycott, boycott, boycott office, boycott office, boycott churches, boycott office, boycott churches, boycott office, boycott churches, boycott office, boycott churches, boycott churches, boycott churches, boycott churches, boycott office, fighting, 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 fighting fed in office, nurtured by religion, boycott office, boycott churches, ooh-ah, ooh-ah, ooh-ah. Baluba, 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 ooh-ah, eh-eh. Blue Bag City, oh have pity, oh have pity, oh have pity on Blue Bag City. Thank you.
I can't hear you, Karen.
I always turn myself off to do the typing in the chat and then forget to turn myself back on again. Hello and welcome to this Artist Focus with James King. My name is Corinne Little and I'm the organizer of Out of Sight. And it is a huge delight to be here with James King, who is really part of the city, the internal fabric of the city of Derry, and has been embedding himself in the streets, more specifically Society Street with the BBDB group on Fridays. You can see him there at 12 noon, and a long collaborative practice with the artist Eamonn O Donnell. And we're going to start by talking about the collaborative practice first. But I also want to mention that James King, quite interesting for me, started doing performance on a women's rights demonstration organized by his friend then, Diane, who then became his wife and his life partner. And so it's really important to mention this connection between politics, activism, and working on the city streets and thinking about concepts of freedom. James King was also a director of the community theatre program. Do they still have programs like that, James? I think this.
I think it was spread out after I retired. Some of the parts of it were retained, like the educational drama part and the forum theatre, theatre of oppressed parts were taken into other modules of the degree.
By Boal, right. Well, you know, it's a really important subject, and I hope we will probably talk a little bit about that today. But I first met James last year. He was recommended to us to be a workshop facilitator on Flow, which is the public performance symposium that we organize annually. And we just had a real giggle in that workshop, and it was a really profound experience. And so here we are today. And so I want to start by sharing an image. We're going to start by talking about your collaborative practice with Eamonn O Donnell. We really could dedicate the whole program to this because it's such a huge body of work. And Eamonn and James King have been working together since the 1980s in Northern Ireland. And this, I love this chalkboard saying, today's special because we have something to smile about. Can you tell us more about this piece, James?
Yeah, well, yes, this is interesting. It does exemplify the process theme of what we're talking about. So it begins with something arbitrary. We were walking through the street and we saw a sign outside a cafe, today's special, and whatever the particular meal was would have been described. And so we took the idea. We didn't have the board with us at that point, and so we chalked on the ground, as we tend to do. I think it was Shipquay Street. It's like the sort of a main street on a hill in Derry, and we wrote down in what way today was special for us. So we began, today is special, but we wrote that at the top, and then underneath it we wrote a list of things like it is the 1st of March, it has stopped raining, the tree is budding. You know, we would be responding to what is there as we were writing, you know. So you'd have noticed the tree is budding, but then there's this other one, I don't know where this came from, there are clean sheets on the bed. I have discovered licorice tea. I had a conversation about tears. Julie, that's my daughter, had a tattoo done. And then we found the board, probably in a skip. And that was, I changed it. We stopped writing and wrote what you see, today's special because there's something to smile about, and went around the streets as we still do today with chalkboard, with some things written on it. And it was nice that an elderly lady wrote on it, yes, me. so that was nice to have that engagement, which is what we like to have, engagement with the people. So you have the idea of starting with what's there, what happened to stimulate us, and there's the process of moving from on the ground to the board to engagement with the public.
Yeah, and I'm very interested, David, in this idea of joy and the expansion of joy that happens with your engagement with the public through the work. And there was a piece, David Hume, the philosopher, who talks about cause and effect theory, also, I've been really thinking about how this aspect of joy, has the capacity to expand in the world through public performance practice. And I think, this next one here that you created with Eamonn early on, You Deserve a Clap. I first heard about this through a friend of mine who you write letters with. And, this, I just loved hearing this story and how you were bringing joy to people in their everyday lives. And have you kind of observed the impact? Because there's been a long history of you, doing these interactive works for the public, very specific, very locally in Derry. Can you talk about is there like a specific story that you'd like to share of
interaction
of somebody who you've impacted over the years?
I'm
thinking about the boys in the.
This was looking at the theme of interaction and public. Well, we were in a disused building which had been an indoor market, and there's loads of junk lying around, and we went in and created a massive junk sculpture there, tied it with thread. There were coat hangers and all sorts of materials, and two young fellas came in and saw what we were doing, and they participated, and it was great to see them, because you had the impression that they didn't have a positive experience of school, but here they, because they're probably dobbing off that day, but because we accepted what they did, and they did some incredible constructions and balancing acts, and it was a beautiful piece of work. The sun was shining through the gap on the roof, making a beautiful scenario, and then we set fire to parts of the sculpture where it was old clothes that we had attached to the smoke rising through the roof, and it was and the sunlight glinting off it. It was beautiful, and those boys, two friends, came in, and they told them what they were doing and how pleased they were with it. But sometimes there's accidental engagement with the public. If you look at this page 24 in your
James is a wonderful artist who often sends you little treats in the post. I love it when artists do this. So this is a huge parcel that I got maybe a couple of months ago, and it's called Move-In Pictures. And so Just going to flick to 24.
So sometimes we have a theme. I was talking about the spontaneity. I was talking about the spontaneity of the work, of picking up on anything that happens to occur to us on the day. But this day we had a theme of homelessness, and there was a skip, and we took materials out of the skip, and we also had some materials with us, and we decorated the bench seat that was nearby with bits of cloth and cardboard there to make it look like a fireplace. And a little child came and sat there, and she transformed it from a sort of visual just to an actual living structure. And then off she went. And then those two people came as well. Sheila Brennan and Tony McMahon. Now, Sheila was a very well-known local character, and the two of them sat there and just completed it. So that was accidental engagement with the public, which sometimes happens. For example, there's another one, actually, it's there on page, it's the page opposite.
All right, 25.
Page 25.
Yes.
So there was barbed wire hanging from the walls in those days, and there was this loop of barbed wire, and we had a roll of wallpaper with us, blank paper, as you tend to, and and why not? And so that was the stimulus. That was, we had no plan, no idea. We just had the wallpaper with us. Although one day we did attempt to wallpaper the walls with this blank wallpaper. So it's a nice concept to see two people setting out with the ladder and the wallpaper and a huge wall, and as a concept of art that they were going to wallpaper Derry's walls. Fortunately, a council officer came along and stopped us, so we couldn't achieve our thing, but the concept is still there.
I loved reading about that piece. It just made me laugh a lot, you know.
But this one here that I showed you of the statue hanging from the right. So you had the barbed wire. It was a hazard because a tall person could have walked into it. So the impetus was the barbed wire. The response was to wrap wallpaper around it to make it to protect the public. And having done that, we continued. There was 3 of us there that day. We continued to roll around, play, work with the paper, and it's not a very good photograph, but we made this large stick-like figure, and with a lot of string. So I attached the string to the arms and legs for 20 feet in each direction. So it actually was a massive sculpture in a way. And then we had flip charts. And, oh, no, that's not what I wanted to say. A thing to write on, a little board, not a flip board. Anyway, something you could ask questions and write down the answers. And we let the people decide what the title would be. And because we didn't have to say, we hadn't decided. And then some people would have said one thing, some people would have said another. I've got one, written down one. One person said it represented abortion because you've got the head and the barbed wire tied up there. And a clergyman, he said, it's a crown of thorns. So as we all know, people can interpret the thing as they like.
Yes.
And we were able to engage in conversation with the people.
And it's so important to spark that curiosity, you know, and, you know, Louis Kahn, the architect, talks about, you know, if, you know, a child can wander through the streets of a city or a town and discover what's going to inspire them for the rest of their lives. And so it's so, I think every city needs to have on their payroll, you know, a public performance practitioner. I hope, you know, preferably a whole group of them to spark and to, yes, and the story you told about the students who were bunking off school, you know, I think, you know, school, especially post-pandemic, you know, kids need to be, you know, in outdoor spaces and not boxed in these classrooms. It's just not suitable for everybody's mentality. So I think, you know, by offering these, you know, this difference, by offering and sharing with people that there are different ways of being, and you can spark curiosity and also like think more deeply about, because I think, let's go back to the pictures here, because you know, the work that you've created with Eamonn over the years, you know, is really quite profound. And let's move to this these ones here with the lines and the points. And I think, I don't know if it was like, yes, pulls apart, and here's watering a lamppost, you know, but these pieces here are more, you know, about these walls, going back to this like wall.
Well, a major shopping centre is there now, the Foyle side. So that was another pointless dividing line. Well, that would be a theme that we would have had, you know, the two sides. I mean, and it is pointless, you know, to have a division between people. And so we made that long line right across that building site. It is interesting that it is now the Foyle side shopping centre.
That's very ironic.
And Eamonn, I mean, another day, Eamonn, there was some march on, and the pavements would have been very crowded, and with people who would have been coming to see the march, which would have been probably an Orange Band march. That's like that. Going transforming the hill into a conveyor belt. But Eamonn, we went through the crowd and drew a chalk line right up the middle of the crowd to illustrate the lines that there are. But I'd like to go back to the poles apart, because I think that comes under our theme of environmental art. And I'll tell you about the watering can as well. That was myself and Christine Galloway and Fran Byrne. It wasn't Eamonn that day. Went down to the river with our watering can, which we Christine and I had picked up in Omagh, where she lives, and done performances with it in Omagh, using it as a shower and various other things. So we still had it with us. We went down to the river and on the way wrote slogans got to do with water, which concerned us, although in different ways. I mean, we didn't all agree in water charges. Fran said there should be some water charge, we should pay for water, value the water, but Christine and I thought we shouldn't have to pay it, but we wrote various things on the way to the river. Don't pay twice for water. One child dies every 3 seconds from extreme poverty, disease, and dehydration. Precious water used to flush your poo away. On some steps, damn water. Damn not water, you silent stones. Curse the drought caused by Western capitalism. And so we'd written that on the way, and then we came back with the water. I climbed up there and poured it down that post, and then invited passers-by to contribute some water. A pub man across the road nearly did, but forgot. Offered, but forgot. So, and the poles apart one. Now, that's a very simple statement, but it changes our perception of what's there. When I was in York doing a summer school event, a class, I dressed in a gown which I found as me and the class went out into the streets, and I became the guru artist. And the whole theme was simply by naming something to change it. For example, there was a litter bin. We called it the toothless mouth of hunger.
James, we've got a little issue with the sound, and I'm wondering if you could just slowly tap down your volume just a little tad, because I know it wasn't crackling when we did the test.
Is that it? Is that better?
But could you do it a little bit more?
What? Reduce it more?
Yes. Okay, can you talk now?
Yes.
Oh, it's still crackling. I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know why. I'm sorry about this, folks. We've got a little bit of a crackle on the broadcast today, but hopefully it'll. I thought it cleared up for a moment, but let's continue, James.
So you can hear that?
Oh, now it's got a bit worse.
Well, I'll put it up a bit more. How's that? How's that? Is that any good?
Yeah, it's like there's a little bit of dust in your mic or something, or static. I don't know if you could rub it. I'm going to rub mine as well.
I'm not sure where my mic. I know where my is. Would that be where my little lens is?
Okay, people are saying it seems okay here.
Okay.
Yeah, this StreamYard isn't always the best for audio, unfortunately. But let's just continue. Sorry, you were talking.
I was talking about the naming, simply by naming, making something different. And I talked about the toothless mouth of hunger. I mean, there was another one called Liar. I was in mode, I was in role, I had this cloak on me, I was a guru artist. So I was actually in what we call the enchantress channel of consciousness. So I was or the fool, perhaps. I was careless. I was in the mode. And so I lay down in the middle of the road, and wrote something about lying for safety or something, or lying, or a dangerous lie, I think maybe it was. Maybe that's what it was, a dangerous lie. And so I lay in the middle of the road. But it was simply by naming things that there was another one I did actually indoors where the naming was a thing. I sat on a chair and I said, what was it? No, I didn't sit in the chair. I wrote against the chair, unoccupied chair. And then I wrote on it, I sat on it and wrote occupied chair. And then I cut off it again and rewrote it, preoccupied chair. So there's actually more of these in the Accumulator 12, where I was naming things and changing them by naming them. But I think I'll maybe move on to another aspect of the work.
Yes, should we move on to the Accumulator project?
Okay.
Yes, because this is a project, and this continues really, James's extensive work, working in collaboration with others. And this, do you want to give a little bit of background to this work?
Be Beyond, the wonderful organization that has been such a rich source for me.
Maybe James, if you could turn your volume down to 50%, and then I'll turn it up at my end, and that might.
How's that?
Or that's much better. Well,
is that better?
I think yes. Well, I'm afraid we're just going to have to roll on today with this. So,
is that all right? Will I continue?
Yes, please do.
Be Beyond, we're looking for projects, and I suggested this project. I've been interested in the idea of exponential processes. Like when I was a clown, I used to do an act as with this dog, which was just a piece of material, and called Rover, and Rover would jump over this suitcase. So I lay the suitcase flat, run up with Rover and jump over it, or Rover then jumps over it. I have Rover on a lead. And then I turn the suitcase up on its side, and I have to go back a bit further to run up. And I try to run up, but I haven't gone back far enough, so I'll go back a bit further. And I'm saying, jump Rover, jump Rover, jump Rover. And eventually I've run back far enough to give me the momentum to jump. And then I turn the suitcase up on its other edge, and I have to go right back. And if I'm in a building, I would go out the door and run, or if I was on the street, I'd go right up a hill. So I'd be yards and yards away and then come charging back down with Rover until we're so exhausted we can't reach the suitcase. So I lift Rover and run the rest of my way and crash into the suitcase. So I like this exponential, something I get more and more and more. The other thing I like is other people doing different things at the same time. No, sorry, doing the same thing in different places.
At the same time.
So myself and two friends were in different corners of Belfast, and we went into telephone boxes with our wives standing outside, in inverted commas wives, and took off our clothes and came out as Supermen in our Superman costumes. and then we progressed our way into the city centre, each from a different corner. We got into the city centre, met each other, and challenged which one was the real Superman. And of course, the wives sorted it out, saying that we were all the real Superman. But it was, so this led me to do the cumulator, because you different people throughout the first month, the exponential part was the first month. This is me doing 1 hour in January, a performance in Wedderburn Park, I think. Then in the second month, 2 people, it was Caroline Murphy and me, did 2 hours in the Yellow Yard in Derry. The third month, there was 3 people for 3 hours with that was Christoph Gillen and JK and myself. And in the 12th, and so in the 12th month, there was 12. Oh, that was 5 people for 5 hours in Northumberland. Yeah, with Denny there. She Denny Blacker, she coordinated it for me, and she took part. And there's Marina. So
this was a 12-month project that occurred through the year, and for each performance, the duration got longer according to the number of the month, and also the number of people collaborating got larger depending on the number of the month. I'm interested in, this was a method, it was dealing with time, dealing with duration, thinking about, groups, but it was also dealing with mathematics. You've talked about how curating this project and performing this project was was very influential to you. Can you talk about how?
Well,
how did this
it was an exciting project, and it was grand, the first one, and second one, and I think in the third one actually, Christoph came in to help, because the person who was going to that's Christoph there, Christoph Gillen. He was most supportive throughout. He was in quite a few of them. He was a wonderful help, contributor, creative, and also stalwart. But on the third one, the person who was going to be with JK and me, they dropped out late in the day. And this proved to be something I had to be concerned about. Brian Patterson was another person who was always there on hand to fill in. But my concept was to want so many people for so many hours on such a month. And some people didn't realize that the event stood or fall by everybody being there. My concept, if someone hadn't turned up, I felt, I was being very militaristic, anal, obsessive, or something.
I think
Brian did another project the following year. He was much more relaxed. It was sort of exponential in that way, but I was rigidly attached to. I began to not so much. There was wonderful performances went on throughout, as you can see, but that wasn't my priority.
No, and I think there is. But going back to the impact, that this project had, because I'm aware of time, and I want to also talk about your vocal work, because that's a very important part of your practice. How's the duration then start to influence the work that you're doing now?
Oh, well, I mean, I've done durationals before, but yeah, these, once you got to the month 6, 7, you know, time became it became an element of the form. Experiencing yourself over time. I mean, that was in July. Rainer Pagel very kindly curated this one for me. This was down in near Bangor, and so time became part of the art form, the very fact, and it influenced your perception of what you're doing. It was like seeing what you're doing under a microscope, and because of the length of time, there was in a funny way, doing it slowly, there was spontaneity as well, because there were things happening that you hadn't anticipated at the start by just staying with one thing.
Yeah, and I know that you know, in the conversation with Boris Nieslony earlier this spring, you know, he was talking with Martine about coins and this idea of perception. And so was there an element in doing this cumulative project that really heightened your sense of perception? You know, I mean, up until this time, you've been really employing the absurd and humor within your work, but did this start to shift things for you?
Well, I mean, I've done durationals before. I valued the other people and the support that people working together would have. I mean, I've written. People can read this on the Be Beyond website. I've quite a long article or report. So it was about people. It was more the process. It was more the process within the group of people learning to accept other people involvement in perhaps what they're doing, and yet also learning if somebody says no, they mean no whenever they're engaging, whenever they wish to engage with what you're doing. So that was an important learning. People learning to work on the same thing and tolerate and influence each other and be influenced, trusting your intuition, saying yes to a hunch, even saying yes to something which you think, oh no, I won't do that. That if that occurs, sometimes that's the very thing that you should follow through on and find where it takes you.
Very wise advice. Very wise advice. And talking of intuitively, just opening a book, I was reading this book called Stone Will Answer. And James does a lot of performances standing on stone. And I just came across, and I knew it was in this book somewhere, and I opened it up at the right page just before the broadcast. And I'm just going to read this little section. Standing in the rock marked a binding union with the land, through which wisdom and guidance of his predecessors flowed. So, and, you know, with this symbolic joining of the stone. And I know in our workshop, we were given the task of standing on stone, and this is often something that is integral to your work and practice, and a lot of the collaborative work on Society Street. It has these wonderful round stones that you often photograph standing on. But
Well,
I want to, because we are running out of time, and I would like to invite the audience, if you have a question for James King, please pop it in the chat, and we'll ask James about that. But vocality is such an important part of your practice. And we started, and I'm a poet myself, and so, you know, I really wanted to get a chance to talk to you about poetry and the use of words. Have you had much thought about how vocality and performance art, because these elements are both integral in your practice? Why? Well, you know, I think they're integral elements of performance. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on the combination of poetry and performance art, and how they work as integral parts within your body or as your practice.
Well, I don't have any, as the video at the start said, I don't have any, you know, background in training in art. So I'm not a sculptor or a visual artist, but I mean, some performance artists would use their bodies and create an image and sustain it and be able to know the power of that particular image. I wouldn't have that confidence, and so whenever I'm taking up a stance somewhere, I really need the voice to give it credit. Well, I don't know, credibility is the right word. I can't always find the most suitable word for me in doing it. So and I find I've developed the use of my voice, trying not to impinge too much if there is a group there, you know, on what other people are doing, because the voice does carry.
Yes, shall we? I just want to share a little bit of this new solo work that you did called Forgotten Spaces. Shall we just show a little clip of that?
Can I just say something before you show it?
Yes.
Because there's one part of it when I'm standing up and I'm saying what sounds like kill. Now that might be a bit, people might wonder what am I saying kill for? Well, at the early part of the performance, I'm a primal situation. At this part of the performance, I've transformed from being primal into acquiring language, and so my performance consists of me going through the alphabet. So I'm doing abba without the vowels. So I'm doing abba and at some point I reach so it's and it's kill, kill, kill. So it's an expression of the sounds, which going with the flow, as Karen recommends us to do, I flowed into kill, kill. So it might seem a bit, people might wonder why I'm saying kill, it's kill. So I wanted to clarify that.
Yes, yes. And I mean, that is, you know, I love the way you use the alphabet and the resonances of the sound. And this really connects with also the mathematical, the durational work, you know, and how kind of sound vibrates through time, but also kind of the connection within the body. And you talk about how you need sound to get started in a performance, and you know it's connected to the longest nerve in our body, you know, which reverberates and activates our, you know, our sights and sounds. Actually, we have a question which is similar to the question that I just asked, but it's from Kaiki, who was our artist focus last week. Oh, there's quite a few questions coming in the chat. So shall we abort sharing the video to answer the questions, James? What would you prefer?
Well, can we not do both and?
Well, we'll try. Let's try. Okay, so the first question is, how does your poetry relate to your performance work? So that's kind of similar.
Yeah, well, I use my voice. Sometimes it is the sounds are just coming aesthetically one from the other. And sometimes they are related to syllables that have emerged, and or sometimes to be related to an initial sentence that I begin with, like steeped in steam yard, for example, is written on top of me, and I would do a syllable stew. I play around with the syllables within that, so it would be steam yard would be and a third thing is if there's a feeling, if I'm engaging, if I'm looking at Karen and I'm engaging emotionally in the connection, look to e, oh my, so so it's the so there's the three elements: the aesthetic, the melon, and the feeling.
Thank
you, Kaiki.
And so the next question is from Julie Bloomquist, and she asks, when you are standing on a stone, what is going through your mind as soon as you first step onto the stone?
Well, it's here I'm home. I'm back home.
So it's connecting, you know, it's actually emphasizing, you know, the quote that I just read by Beatrice Searle in Stone Will Answer, because she talks about how the stone, standing on a stone, connects you to the land of
I'm
where
safe here.
And, you know, I think that is, yeah, sorry. Is there anything else in relation to that question, James?
Well, it's I'm a jitty, jury bacotti, flumpety kind of person. A bit unconnected. But whenever I'm on the stone or on the litter bin, which I would often be on as well, I'm there, and it helps me focus, and it helps me be present. Some people have their feet bare whenever they're performing on the ground, and they're earthed. I'm sort of earthed by being airborne.
Well, sadly, we have come to the end of our broadcast. These whiz by so quickly. And but it was delightful to end with a little bit of Miocha Mora.
Jen, que ranto o de visto. Rekanti polnanti elon sky kata idava. Kirat undo vonni usteva pundo. Kilum mondi king on divon.
And I also want to thank everybody here for joining us today. And, you know, going back to this sense of standing on the stone and being at home, you know, I think, you know, James King, you know, you're very much part of the landscape of Derry and the local place. And I do hope that there is much more appreciation to come, you know, for all the joy that you have brought and the smiles and the laughter over the years. So thank you so much for doing what you do. And thank you everybody for joining us today. This will exist in the Out of Sight archive. And next week, we are ending the series with, so it'll be the last artist focus of the Spring 2023 series with Janice Parker from Edinburgh, Scotland. And this is a photo that I took as I witnessed her durational performance along the Union Canal in Edinburgh last year. And in true Scottish fashion, it has, I thought this was a very funny photo. So make a date with us next week for Janice Parker for the last artist focus for this spring series. And I'm hoping that we can announce the flow lineup with all the curators from the Out of Sight Collective next week, and have a really wonderful week. Send people a smile or a gift or create a surprise or as you go around your life this week. And thank you so much for joining us. And big thank yous, James King. It's always a real pleasure to be in conversation with you. So thank you.
No, it was my pleasure, Karen. Thank you very much. Sincerely.
You. Thank you. Goodbye, everybody. Bye-bye.
Shalom. Bond. Peace.